Library of Heaven's Path. Chapter 17, Assassination. So what if the parents ask about it? You are the lowest level teacher, it is normal that you can't answer their questions. So, in order to put on a show, you specially came here to view the 5 Dan cultivation technique. If this isn't being hypocritical and vain, then what is? Tomorrow, I will look for the principal and have this unrealistic fellow expelled. Scoffing coldly in his heart, old Mo's mind was resolute. Leaving such a vain fellow who doesn't cultivate properly in the academy will just sully the culture of the academy. Zhang Xuan didn't know that the 2 meetings with Elder Mo have placed him in the expulsion list of the latter. If he were to know, he would have no idea whether he should burst into laughter or weep in tears. Those words that he said were only excuses. In reality, his cultivation had reached such a level. He couldn't possibly stop training due to the lack of cultivation technique. Very quickly, he found the very last row of the cultivation technique section. Even the most famous and powerful teacher in the academy was Fighter 5 Dan. The moment one broke through into the 6 Dan Pixie realm, they would automatically become an elder in the academy. This was only the teacher compendium pavilion, so there weren't any records on the 6 Dan cultivation techniques. Thus, the 5 Dan cultivation techniques were placed on the very last shelf. There are significantly less 5 Dan manuals than 4 Dan. There were around 2,000 to 3,000 cultivation technique secret manuals on the 4 Dan, whereas there were only 1,000 on the 5 Dan. However, it was also a natural occurrence when one thought about it. No matter what it was, the higher one climbed, the scarcer the resources. Although the academy had been present for a long time, there were definitely significantly less 5 Dan than 4 Dan in its entire history. As a result, the cultivation techniques and notes they left behind would be fewer as well. Shaking his head, he decided not to contemplate over such matters. Zhang Xuan casually took out a book and flipped through it. Around an hour later, the 1,000 cultivation technique secret manuals have been browsed through and the Library of Heaven's Path had compiled corresponding books to the secret manuals. After receiving what he wanted, Zhang Xuan smiled faintly and bade Elder Mo farewell before walking into the distance. Seeing how he was randomly flipping and viewing the books, not even stopping in the midst of it, Elder Mo couldn't help but chastise him yet again in his mind. Returning back to his living quarters, Zhang Xuan followed what he did previously and searched for the correct phrases and paragraphs within the 1,000 books. As he expected, not too long later, the library compiled the 1,000 books into a single one. This time, the book wasn't nameless and the 4 big words Heaven's Path Divine Art was written on it. He started to cultivate again. Fighter 5 Dan Dingli realm was an extension of the Piga realm. The purpose of this realm was simple, it was to temper the genkai of the cultivator to his body. The difference in strength between each stage in Dingli realm was mainly due to the level of compatibility between one's genkai and their body. The greater their compatibility, the more strength one was able to exert. Reading the cultivation method for the Dingli realm in the Heaven's Path Divine Art, Zhang Xuan focused his attention. He carefully controlled the crystal clear genkai in his danshan to slowly flow in his body, going at a fixed rhythm to allow it to merge completely with his body. The Heaven's Path Divine Art was indeed worthy of being a cultivation technique compiled by the advantages of over a few thousand secret manuals. The efficiency of the cultivation method was indeed one to behold. His genkai and muscles swiftly merged together as one. The strength of his body and the compatibility of his genkai soared up exponentially. Dingli Realm Primary Stage. Dingli Realm Intermediate Stage. Dingli Realm Advanced Stage. Dingli Realm Pinnacle. Boom. After 4 hours, his body jolted again. Zhang Xuan reopened his eyes. His eyes were filled with disbelief. This Fighter 5 Dan Pinnacle? Initially, he thought he would take a long period cultivating in 5 Dan. Never in his dreams would he possibly imagine that he could reach the pinnacle in 4 hours through the Heaven's Path Divine Art. To his previous self, cultivation was as difficult as trying to ascend the heavens. Yet, to Zhang Xuan, who was practicing the heavens path divine art, it was as easy as eating and drinking. Just by half a night worth of effort, he rose from Fighter 3 Dan Genkai realm to Fighter 5 Dan Dingli realm pinnacle. This was too exaggerated. Furthermore, if it wasn't for the fact that he didn't know the cultivation method for 6 Dan, unaware of which appointment he should break through, he might have already successfully broken through to become a 6 Dan Pixu realm expert. In 6 Dan Pixu realm, one would open up all of the blocked acupoints in their body. For every appointment broken through, one's Genkai would become richer and one's prowess will rise. It was said that there are 108 acupoints in the human body. However, only 72 of these could be opened, and there was an order to opening it. Everyone's body was different, thus everyone would require a different sequence in breaking through each of them to obtain the best results out of it. If one was unable to find the correct sequence, they could very possibly end up only opening 3 to 4 acupoints and be stuck there for the rest of their lives. This was just like cleaning the silt by a river. It had to be cleaned gradually from the upper stream to the lower stream. If one were to start at the center and clean towards the upper and lower stream, not only would the river not be cleaned thoroughly, it might even result in a blockage, causing one to be unable to progress further. The same logic went for breaking through one's acupoints as well. If one didn't find the ideal sequence, the other acupoints might get blocked, and for the rest of their lives, they would be unable to open it. Thus, without a cultivation technique, Zhang Xuan didn't dare to try to cultivate further. However, he wasn't anxious. It was already unheard of to break through 2 great realms in a single night. He was already very satisfied with the results. Unless required, it is best for me to not to reveal my level of cultivation. As a transcender, he had read many books and watched many shows. He knew that possessing a treasure itself was a crime. He was the worst teacher in the entire academy. Yet, in a night, he suddenly gained the strength of a Fighter 5 Dan pinnacle. If others were to find out, wouldn't they all rush to him? Thus, it was best for him to not tell anyone about him reaching Dingli realm pinnacle. The more confidential it was, the better it was for him. Let me see how much strength would I hold this time. After making a decision, Zhang Xuan walked over to the strength measuring rock pillar. While other people only possessed 1 ding of strength in their Dingli primary stage, he possessed 5 ding. If so, how much strength would he hold now that he had reached the pinnacle? Peng. Light flowed through the rock pillar and numbers appeared on it. 8 ding. 8 ding of strength. That is almost the strength of a Pixu realm expert who has opened up 4 acupoints. Zhang Xuan's eyes lit up. A normal Dingli pinnacle cultivator would possess 4 ding of strength. After which, for each acupointment they broke through, their strength would increase by 1 ding. Despite just being at Dingli pinnacle, he possessed the strength of 8 ding, putting him on the same level as an expert who had broken through 4 acupoints. As expected of the heavens path divine art, incredible. Zhang Xuan was quite happy. After training for such a long period of time, he intended to find something to eat then go to sleep. However, his ears suddenly twitched. Why would someone be here at such a time? Zhang Xuan frowned. Due to an advancement in his cultivation, his hearing and sight have improved tremendously. He was able to clearly perceive the sound of someone hiding somewhere not too far from where he was, staring fixedly at his living quarters. Looks like he is surveying my room. He probably has yet to detect my presence. At this moment, Zhang Xuan wasn't at his room but behind a strength measuring rock pillar, which was a distance away from the dormitory. After measuring his strength, he had been suppressing his breathing, thus the other party had yet to notice his presence. Let's see who's the one finding trouble with me. He didn't expect that someone would want to deal with him right after he was done cultivating. The doubts in his mind grew. Rummaging through the memories of his previous self, although he didn't have much accomplishment, there hadn't been a scenario where someone sneaked onto in the night to deal with him. No matter who he is, I mustn't let him identify me. Just when he was about to meet the other party, a thought suddenly flashed through his mind. The entire academy knew that he is a fighter 3 Dangenkai realm trash. If he were to appear at this moment as a 5 Dan pinnacle, the other party would definitely be scared to death. Furthermore, if the news were to spread out, there would surely be quite a few persons who would look into him. Thus, no matter who the other party was, Zhang Xuan mustn't allow him to identify him. At this moment, he suddenly recalled the numerous movies he had watched back in his previous life. Thus, he tore away a fabric from his sleeves and covered his face. Who? After finishing with his preparations, making use of the darkness of the night, Zhang Xuan gradually crept towards the other party with light footsteps. Although he had just broken through and he had never studied any footwork, the cultivation technique he was training with was the Heaven's Path divine art, which granted him superb control over his body. Not to mention, he was also very familiar with his surroundings, so the other party didn't notice him even when he was just 10 meters behind him. At such a proximity, he could clearly see the black suit donned by the other party. His face was also covered, so it was impossible for him to make out his identity as well. Lad, if you must blame it for your daring guts to dare to lay your hands on our young mistress. Hiding behind a large tree, Zhang Xuan stared at the silhouette before him as the mutterings of the latter vaguely drifted to his ears. That voice sounds familiar. Zhang Xuan's eyebrows knitted tightly together. Zhang Xuan was sure that he had heard this voice before. However, he had difficulty recalling exactly when and where he heard it. Who? Just as he was trying his best to recall whether it is the memory of his previous self or after he had transcended, the silhouette before him flickered and gradually moved towards his dormitory. At the same time, with a flick of his wrist, a cold gleam shone and a sharp dagger appeared on his palm.